Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel, where everything you're about to hear and see has been done in one take. I'm your host, the One Take Man. On August 25th, 2009, Eidos Interactive and Warner Brothers Games, known at the time as Warner Brothers Interactive Entertainment, released Batman Arkham Asylum, a video game developed by Rocksteady Studios. Initially intended to be a tie-in video game for The Dark Knight, the studio instead, or Rocksteady to be more precise, decided to ask for an extension so they could be able to do their own thing with the game. The result of that was Batman Arkham Asylum, which turned out to be the first in a series of video games, and also helped in many ways kickstarted a massive change within the superhero fandom as a whole, revamping and reinventing it in a way that hasn't been seen before and arguably even since. Nowadays, the fandom for the Batman Arkham series is a little bit more well known for its insular and somewhat strange behavior, um, or rather for the behavior of its, or rather for the insular and strange behavior of its fandom, particularly its subreddit. But still, the quality of the main four games is very hard to deny. Unfortunately, that cannot be said about any Superman outings within the video game genre of the past 15 years, of which the most notable were him being the central antagonist of the Injustice series, where he plays a very atypical version of himself, or where he is portrayed as a very atypical version of himself, and Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, where he is just brainwashed into doing a villain's bidding. So yeah, there wasn't so yeah, this past decade and a half hasn't really had a lot of success or with interesting adaptations of the Man of Steel. But that is not uniquely a gaming problem. That also stems from that is reflected in the way pop culture has handled him for the last 15 or even more years as well, because people, or to be more precise, producers, weren't exactly sure how to how to update him in order to better suit a modern audience. Recent TV shows, however, such as Superman and Lois and My Adventures with Superman, have done a better job at showcasing the characteristics and particulars of this character, showcasing him as not just a figure of great strength, but also of outstanding empathy and compassion. And with these, should I say, and with this groundwork laid in place to, to more accurately and to more definitively cement, the kind of personality that Superman would actually have, and that more accurately represents his role as a pop culture icon. I think now would be about as good a time as any to present my suggestion for how a Superman-centric video game uh, uh, would function. It would not necessarily be in the same vein as Arkham, but it would do the same thing for the Superman character as the Arkham series did for the Batman character, as in mirror the things that make him distinctive and interesting to follow. And because I am a story guy, that will be what the bulk of this video is going to be about. The plot of this game would focus upon upon what would basically be D-Day for Metropolis, where there are a whole bunch of crises happening not just at once, but also in waves. So, say wave 1, 4 crises start out at once. Superman has to go around solving them, and then once those are solved, another wave of crises happens. Maybe maybe a higher number, and so it goes for a few waves. And each of these crises or waves would be either kickstarted or directed by one of by any of Superman's Earthbound enemies. So throughout the game, players would face off against Toyman, Manchester Black, Metallo, Silver Banshee, Morgan Edge, etc. Those will be the bosses. One important thing to note about the game is here are two visualization aids to figure out how for people to understand how I kind of want this game to function. The first visualization aid is the mission select option from Batman Arkham Knight, which was the last game in the Batman Arkham saga, where you're given a selection of missions you can go on, and then where you're given and can basically select between them. Maybe not willy-nilly, but you have the option of taking them on one at a time. The thing that would differentiate this game, so the second visualization aid, would be the fact that all of these missions or all of the events that kickstart these missions would occur simultaneously. So while Superman is off dealing with one mission, the others would still, the other crises that cause these missions would still be unfolding. So when Superman solves one mission, he would have to, he would not return to the same, he would not go to the same situation he would have, he would have encountered if he. So let's say Superman solves mission A and then goes to mission B. He would not find mission B in the same situation as he would have found it if he had decided to start with mission B. And therefore, a lot of the gameplay would focus around Superman, or more precisely the player, optimizing how to how to select these missions in order to lead to the lowest number of human casualties. Because just like the Arkham games highlight the what it's like to be Batman from a perspective of both using the gadgets and of dealing with the brutality and physical toll of it. This game needs to showcase the emotional toll that Superman is more or less going through. Through the fact that he would ideally want to save everyone, but that is not necessarily an option that is realistically feasible even for him. He has limits, and he is there to inspire people, not necessarily take on all of their burdens for himself, even though he would very much be inclined to do so. So yeah, that's another, for an example of what such a typical mission would go. Imagine yourself as the player controlling Superman, and Superman flying down a boulevard. On a neighboring street, a building risks to collapse over a bunch of people. You as a player can choose to either use Superman's freeze breath on the building to hold it in place for long enough for the people to escape, or you can have Superman physically pin the building, hold up the building while the people run away, or you can choose to pick all of those people yourself and fly them over where the debris won't hit them. That's the kind of mission management that I'm basically thinking about. where you have to choose how to most effectively optimize the how to most effectively optimize the situations based upon your powers as well. Do that, and if you're keep and if the video game developers are capable of coming up with 20 or 40 or 60 such scenarios where where these kinds of decisions could be made over the course of several crisis waves, then that would be a pretty good idea of what this game is basically going to be about. In order to further flesh the game out, there is another dimension I would want to add, and within that second dimension, Superman's alter ego Clark Kent would have some investigation missions throughout the game, something that would allow him to figure out whether there is a reason all of these crises will have started on this day in particular. Spoiler alert, of course there is a reason, and that reason is Lex Luthor doing once again his best in order to discredit Superman and go on to paint himself as the savior of the city, because that's basically what his whole deal is. That he wants money, he wants power, he wants admiration, and he is willing to use money and power, even if subtly, to obtain admiration. Maybe he even has a kryptonite-powered armor or robot somewhere around the city that could serve as the game's final boss, because why the hell not? When it comes to gameplay, I have to say the main problem with a Superman game is that he has a lot of powers that are somewhat hard to manage within a game. Superman is capable of managing them just fine, but translating that effort for towards players is something that is a little bit more difficult. I'll be polite and say. And there are two workarounds I would suggest when it comes to how to use Superman's powers. The first one stems once again from the Arkham series, namely the gadget wheel. Only instead of gadgets, it would be the powers wheel. So Superman would basically have a submenu accessible during regular gameplay, where he would be able to select which of his powers to use in a particular situation. To that, I want to add a second mechanic, maybe one similar to the Deadeye mechanic from Red Dead Redemption, where whenever Superman arrives at a mission site, then time either freezes or very heavily slows down, and within that slower framework, or slower or still framework, depending, he would have to assess the situation and choose which of his abilities would be most effective within that situation. If resolving said situation would require combat, then obviously the game should also allow for combat. And in terms of combat, I think the best way to manage that would be a combination of what the Insomniac Spider-Man games did and what the Injustice series did, as in have some level of integration between the between the actual physical attacks and the powers of the character. It's it could be a little tricky, but it is something that can be made to work. When it comes to more a generalized mobility, as in walking around and aiming, I think for short range, copying Batman Arkham's motion would work just fine. But for longer movements, for long distance movements such as flight, well, you have to think a little bit outside the box. And I'm thinking using the controllers or the joysticks on the controllers would function just fine when it comes to controlling the speed and direction of the character. From a game design perspective, it might help to have a separate flight mode players could snap in and out of. That could also perhaps allow for a better for a better way to encapsulate or organize the various controls for whether or not Superman is in flight mode or not. That just something to consider. And yeah, that is my video game proposal for for the Superman IP. Thank you for your attention. If you enjoyed it, well then please like the video, maybe even share it wherever you think other people will also like the video. If there is anything you'd like to add, either to the idea of a Superman video game or to my proposal for how to make it happen, well, that's what the comment section is for. And if you want to see when my next video gets released, well then please subscribe. Ideally also ring the bell or do whatever else YouTube will ask of you in order to keep you notified. I also have a main channel where I talk about book-related and literature topics, a link to which you can find in the description down below, right past my social media links, which I also suggest you check out should you choose to. Additionally, you have the option of supporting me on Patreon, where depending on the level at which you pledge, you will receive various perks, the specifics of which I'll allow you to discover for yourselves. If you need a little help figuring out, whether or not it, makes sense to give me money, then I suggest you go to my channel's backlog and see, just how much of it actually speaks to you. If you're disinclined to do so, or even check out my main channel, well then I suggest you go ahead and do whatever you want with the rest of your day, because it is your day after all. And yeah, that was all I had to say. Until next time, I have been the One Take Man.